Earth had seen a lot of strange things by the year 2192: Mars colonization, toaster-based propulsion, a diplomatic incident involving psychocats, but nothing quite like the sudden appearance of a ship so massive it blocked out half the stars over the Pacific Rim. It arrived without fanfare, silently gliding into geosynchronous orbit like a metal god, its surface shimmering in hues no human eye had evolved to process. The Bathari Empire had come to declare war. Most people thought it was a prank, or marketing for a movie. Inside Earth Command's war room, a circular chamber buried 6 miles under the Rocky Mountains, panic surged like bad Wi-Fi during a thunderstorm. Screens lit up with alerts in 23 languages. Generals barked at interns. AI assistants pinged erratically. And standing right in the middle of it all, half drunk on cold coffee and chewing a cinnamon toothpick, was General Maria Jackson. She didn't look like anyone's idea of a war hero. Her hair was a silver-streaked mess tied into a loose bun. Her combat boots were scuffed from kicking malfunctioning plasma cannons, and her jacket had an old Nirvana patch half-sewn onto the sleeve. She was 51 years old and had personally headbutted a cyborg assassin during the Mars uprising of '78. "Do we know what they want?" Maria asked, stretching like she just rolled out of bed. A junior officer tried to hand her a tactical brief, but she waved it off. "They haven't said anything yet," the lieutenant replied. "But we intercepted a power surge. They're about to transmit." A low hum filled the air. Every monitor flickered. Then a regal, chiseled alien face appeared on all screens. Gold-plated armor, 6 eyes, and a forehead crest like an antique Roman helmet, but way more pretentious. "I am High Commander Relgax of the Supreme Bathari Empire." The alien boomed in perfectly translated English, though the accent somehow sounded like it looked down on vowels. "We come not to negotiate, but to conquer. Humanity has ignored the laws of galactic order for too long. You breed chaos. You weaponize sarcasm. Your memes destabilize lesser civilizations. As of this moment, your planet is under Bathari jurisdiction." Gasps echoed through the room. Maria slowly turned her head, stared at the screen, and said, "Are you done?" Relgax blinked all 6 eyes. "Excuse me." Maria rolled her shoulders. "You show up uninvited, park your titanium space canoe in our orbit, and give us a canned villain monologue? Buddy, that was like Season 3 of Power Rangers level cringe." The entire war room froze. The screen flickered slightly, as if the Bathari transmission wasn't sure how to process sarcasm. "I shall repeat," Relgax stammered, briefly thrown off. "The Bathari Empire has ruled unchallenged for over 12 millennia. We possess weapons that can erase your continents. Our mind screamers can bend metal with thought. We expect full planetary surrender within 24 Earth hours." Maria glanced down at her digital watch. "Cool. You've got 23 hours and 59 minutes to impress me." One of the junior officers quietly whispered, "Ma'am, this is the strongest military force ever recorded on any frequency. They wiped out the Zenthari swarm in under 3 hours. That's—" "I know who they are," Maria said, popping another toothpick in her mouth. "I also know that they just tried to scare us with a floating trophy case and overblown speeches. I've had scarier food poisoning." The Bathari transmission cut off with a hiss of static. The room erupted in nervous chatter. The president's AI liaison called in. Satellite stations began to flicker. And Maria? She picked up a battered flip phone from her back pocket and dialed number. "Barry's dim sum." "What you want?" came a crackly voice. "It's Maria. Get me the special. And a side of that spicy stuff. You know the one." She hung up before he could respond. Above Earth, the Bathari flagship's weapon systems came online. Small orbital satellites were vaporized with surgical precision, just enough to make a statement, not to start a full-blown war. Relgax turned to his second-in-command, a spindly creature with translucent skin named Lortzith. "They did not respond as expected," Relgax said, fuming. "No panic. No surrender. That woman insulted me." Lortzith tapped a claw on his tablet. "Based on our cultural analysis, General Maria Jackson is unorthodox, decorated, unfiltered, Her personnel file suggests mild sociopathic tendencies, a love for dad rock, and a documented incident where she punched a sentient vending machine for refusing to vend. Relgax narrowed his eyes. Send a demonstration strike. Let her feel the edge of our power. Below, Maria sat on the hood of a mobile war mech nicknamed Big Rhonda, sipping tea from a thermos that said "Number 1 Grandma." Her lieutenant, an ex-Marine named Jules with a mechanical leg and a passion for 90s trivia, handed her a datapad. They just hit Lunar Base Echo. Total destruction. No casualties, though. Everyone was at the base's weekly karaoke night. What was the theme? Backstreet Boys versus NSYNC. Maria whistled. Close call. Jules hesitated. Do we retaliate? Maria cracked her neck. Nah. Let's send them something worse. Hours later, a small transport ship, rusting at the seams and clearly held together with duct tape and spite, approached the Bathari mothership. It broadcast no threat signals. Inside sat a single human pilot, Maria's favorite junker pilot, Doug. Doug wore aviator glasses and a Rush t-shirt. He flew the ship, lovingly named Betty, while listening to Thunderstruck at full volume. The Bathari scanned it, found no weapons, and let it approach. Big mistake. Betty didn't carry nukes. It carried sonic overload devices tuned to one specific Earth frequency. Bagpipes being played by toddlers with no training. The Bathari bridge trembled as sound waves pierced their advanced soundproofing systems. Officers clutched their heads. Monitors shattered. One alien screamed something about his inner organs trying to crawl out. Relgax collapsed into his command chair. What is this torture? Doug's voice echoed over their internal comms. Y'all really came to Earth without earplugs? Rookie move. He dropped a payload of glitter bombs and a dozen genetically engineered hyper-caffeinated raccoons before casually flipping Betty upside down and flying away, middle finger painted on the underside of the ship. Back on Earth, Maria kicked her feet up on the command table. Let's see how long they last. Her communicator buzzed. General Jackson, you are being contacted directly by the Bathari High Command. She pressed the button. Relgax's face appeared again, now visibly twitching. You mock the Bathari Empire. You think this is a game? Maria leaned forward, unblinking. Oh, honey, I hope it's a game. Because we came to play. For a moment, Relgax looked as though he wanted to say something poetic, something to assert dominance or issue another threat. But all he could manage was a strangled sound of frustration. You are unpredictable, unrefined. You wear primitive garments. These? Maria tugged her Nirvana shirt. Vintage. Limited edition. Way more expensive than your throne. This is not over, Relgax snarled, cutting the connection. Maria tossed her thermos to Jules. Mark my words, they're gonna double down. Probably send in some elite murder squads next. Jules looked concerned. Should we mobilize our fleets? We'll do that. Right after my nap. Far above the Earth, the Bathari flagship sat damaged, confused, and oddly sparkly. Relgax stood in silence, looking at the footage of Maria Jackson reclining casually inside Earth Command, as though an empire hadn't just declared war, as though she was waiting for something more interesting to happen. And on Earth, in that command room under the Rockies, Maria blew a bubblegum bubble, let it pop, and said to no one in particular, "Is that all they got?" 3 days after the Batharis' underwhelming declaration of war, the sky above Earth turned into a traffic jam of doom. Their main fleet had arrived, 30 capital ships, each the size of Manhattan, bristling with weapons so advanced that Earth's finest scientists described them as insultingly overdesigned. The fleet hung in low orbit like a chandelier of arrogance, casting long shadows over the Pacific and causing mild panic in oceanside resort communities. General Maria Jackson squinted up at the sky from her outpost in Nevada, one hand shielding her eyes, the other gripping a can of grape soda. They really sent the whole damn parade, she muttered, crushing the can and tossing it into a nearby recycling bin shaped like a shark. Jules, where the hell's my team? They're in the barn, Jules replied, stepping up beside her. His metal leg whirred softly, adjusting for the slope of the rocky terrain. Test firing the new launchers. Maria raised a brow. You mean the duct-tape plasma mortars? Jules nodded solemnly. Version 7. This one's only caught fire once. Progress. Inside the barn, which was technically a converted alien cargo hauler covered in graffiti and motivational posters, a ragtag team of humanity's last, best, and most questionably certified defenders assembled. There's Tex, a shuttle cowboy from New Texas with a cowboy hat hardwired into his helmet. Dr. Rana Kapoor, a sarcastic ex-astrophysicist turned weapons engineer with a caffeine dependency. And Moxie, Maria's ex-husband, demolitions expert and professional emotional grenade. Moxie was elbow-deep in what looked like a toaster strapped to a flux coil. He looked up when Maria walked in. Well, if it isn't the general, he said, grinning like he'd just lit a fuse. You ready to save the planet with us degenerates? Maria gave him a look that would have frozen lava. You still owe me an apology for the Mars Hotel incident. That hotel was asking for it. It was our honeymoon. I said what I said. Maria turned to Rana, who was plugging a car battery into something that hummed ominously. How's our death machine? Rana adjusted her glasses. It'll either disable a starship's shields or give someone the world's worst back massage. Depends on the weather. Tex tipped his hat. Ma'am, I just jury-rigged 6 railguns onto a bulldozer. I call her Daisy. Maria clapped her hands once. All right, listen up. They've got elite death squads prepping for surface deployment. Probably think we'll surrender the moment they show up. Which is adorable. We're gonna roll out the welcome mat. And by mat I mean landmines, chaos raccoons, and Tex's new girlfriend Daisy. Rana frowned. You sure we shouldn't warn civilians to evacuate? Already done, Jules said. Mostly. Okay, I yelled run real loud at a farmer. That counts. Within hours, Maria's unit had scattered across the desert plains near the projected Bathari drop zone. Massive transport ships were already visible, descending like metal coffins. Maria stood atop a repurposed satellite dish, binoculars in one hand, radio in the other. They're coming in hot, Jules said beside her, eyeing the incoming vessels. Want a call for backup? Maria shook her head. Let's give M the Earth experience. Full tour. The Bathari troops deployed in perfect formation, gleaming armor, coordinated movement, energy blades humming with a sound that induced mild nosebleeds. Their leader, a towering brute called General Sithik, surveyed the terrain and sneered. This is their resistance? Dirt. Scraps. Animals. A nearby raccoon bared its teeth at him and then promptly exploded, having chewed through an unstable capacitor. Sithik stumbled back, dazed. That was just a warning. Maria's voice came through the Bathari's open comms. Also, you might want to step left. Now. Sithik didn't move. A second later, the ground beneath him blew upward in a fiery column of plasma and scrap metal. He survived, barely, and roared in frustration. Forward, he bellowed. His troops advanced, and that's when the music began. From massive speakers positioned across the field, the unmistakable intro to Sabotage by Beastie Boys echoed across the battlefield. The Bathari paused, unsure if it was some kind of signal. Then Daisy the bulldozer came screaming over a ridge, rail guns blazing and Tex whooping like a cowboy at a rodeo. Bullets weren't enough to take down Bathari armor, but neither were bullets what Maria's team had loaded. Acid cores, sticky bombs, microgravity traps. The battlefield became a carnival of improvised horror. One Bathari stepped into a puddle of green fluid and immediately launched 30 feet into the air, screaming in binary. Maria, firing from behind a cactus, wearing sunglasses, chuckled into her mic, "Welcome to the meat grinder, boys." Rana, perched in a sniper nest, took careful aim and triggered an electromagnetic pulse that caused Bathari rifles to reboot mid-battle. Moxie, meanwhile, ran into the middle of their formation with 2 satchel charges and a grin that belonged in an asylum. The Bathari's precision crumbled. Their formations broke. They weren't trained for this kind of warfare, chaotic, improvised, and personal. They were warriors of order. The humans were artists of madness. One Bathari commander screamed into his helmet, "They're throwing flaming lawn chairs." Another responded, "They hacked my drone with a Game Boy Color." General Sithik stumbled backward, bleeding violet from a dozen wounds. His blade chipped and his pride shattered. Then, from the smoke, Maria emerged. Dust-covered, armor-dented, toothpick still in her mouth. He raised his blade. "You are an abomination." She nodded. "Heard that before. Usually from my ex-mother-in-law." "Duck." "What?" A bowling ball with a jet thruster attached slammed into his side, courtesy of Moxie, who yelled, "Strike," from somewhere in the distance. Maria walked up to the fallen alien, crouched beside him. "You wanted to see humanity's strength? Here it is. We adapt. We improvise. And we do it all with duct tape and attitude." Sithik coughed, sputtered, and whispered, "This isn't war, it's madness." "No," Maria said, standing tall. "This is Earth." Behind her, Tex launched fireworks into the sky that spelled out "Howdy, invaders." In bright red letters, the Bathari survivors began pulling back, scrambling into their transports. Some fled into orbit. Others abandoned ship entirely, taking their chances in the wilderness. Maria looked at the retreating forces, then keyed her radio. "Jules status. We won. Probably broke 12 interstellar war conventions. Also, I think Texas bulldozer just got promoted. Good. Tell Moxie to sweep for any traps he forgot about. Last thing I need is a surprise boom during lunch." "Copy that." As silence settled across the battlefield, Maria sat on the edge of an overturned Bathari crawler. Her team gathered around her, sweaty, dirty, slightly radioactive, and grinning. Rana handed her a bottle of electrolyte gel. "They'll be back, you know." "Of course," Maria said, wiping her face. "They're aliens. They never learn the first time." Tex chuckled. "Next time, they might bring their big guns." Maria smirked. "Good. I was starting to get bored." Overhead, the Bathari mothership glowed with rage. Relgax watched through clenched teeth as his prize troops limped back aboard, their armor scratched, their morale shattered. He'd expected submission. Instead, he'd been handed a slice of chaos, deep-fried in stubbornness and sprinkled with glitter. He turned to Lordsith. "They are not fighting to win. They are fighting to mock us." Lordsith nodded. "And succeeding, sir." Relgax hissed through his gills. "Then we will escalate." Maria, sipping her now lukewarm coffee, looked up at the sky. "Let em try." The Bathari Empress did not travel lightly. Her arrival was announced by a rift in spacetime, a golden portal that screamed like 1,000 violins fed through a meat grinder. From it emerged a throne ship shaped like a serpent devouring its own tail, coiled in eternal contempt. It hovered over Earth like a celestial guillotine, eclipsing sunlight, interrupting satellite feeds, and causing minor panic in various goat-based astrology cults. General Maria Jackson stood on the tarmac of Earth Command's top-secret base in Arizona, chewing her third toothpick of the morning. Her team assembled behind her, each of them holding some combination of high explosives and caffeine. They had just finished cleaning up the aftermath of the Bathari ground assault, and the desert still smelled faintly of burnt ozone and fried alien ego. Jules approached from the side, tablet in hand. "We've confirmed it. It's her." "The Empress?" Maria asked, cracking her neck like a prizefighter warming up. Jules nodded grimly. "Relgax's mother. Also his boss. Also, apparently, a Class 5 telepath. Her personal kill count is higher than most wars." Maria exhaled through her nose. "Let me guess, she's not here to chat about intergalactic brunch plans." "Nope. She's demanding a face-to-face meeting with the unruly meat leader." Maria chuckled. "That's me. Sounds like a punk band. Make sure the welcome wagon's ready." 10 minutes later, a Bathari delegation materialized on the tarmac in a beam of polished white light. At its center stood Empress Threxela, the Undying, wearing a shimmering cape made from the wings of extinct star wasps, and a crown of living fireflies that spelled out warnings in binary. She was 20 feet tall, had 4 arms, glowing green eyes, and cheekbones sharp enough to slice steel. Her voice echoed not just in ears, but inside thoughts. "I am Threxela, Empress of the Bathari, Queen of the Eternal Flame, Warden of the Black Sun, Conqueror of 12 galaxies." slayer of the endless brood. Maria raised a hand and blew a raspberry. Yeah, we get it. Big deal. You want coffee? There was a long, tense pause. One of the Bathari aides twitched nervously. The Empress's expression didn't change. I am here to offer you one last chance to surrender. You have humiliated my empire, disgraced my son, and introduced our sacred command ships to glitter. Do you understand the severity of your actions? I do, Maria replied, then pointed to a nearby box. Those are donuts. Take one. The Empress blinked slowly, her multiple eyelids folding over like a theater curtain. She stepped forward, stared down at Maria. You mock power, human. Maria shrugged. Only when it deserves it. You fight without honor. We fight to win. You weaponize creatures unfit for war. You mean the raccoons? Maria asked, smiling. Yeah, they're adorable little monsters. We taught them to pick locks and steal power cores. I think one's currently hiding in your escort's plasma cannon. Check the nozzle. Drexela's gaze snapped to her guards. One of them began twitching. A moment later, a raccoon exploded out of its armor, chittering madly and hurling small bits of circuitry like confetti. The entire Bathari formation recoiled. Maria leaned toward the Empress. You guys really need better compartment seals. You will regret this insolence, Drexela growled. I doubt that, Maria replied, popping a donut hole into her mouth. The Empress raised one hand and unleashed a wave of psychic energy. It hit Maria like a freight train made of screaming thoughts. Reality shimmered. Sand turned to glass. Clouds spun into spirals. Most of Maria's team dropped to their knees, clutching their heads. Maria didn't flinch. She had been through worse. PSYOPs during the Europa incident, the hallucinogenic fog grenades of the Venus siege, her divorce. The Empress frowned. You resist me? Lady, Maria said, stepping forward, boots crunching against crystallized sand. I once got into a bar fight with a telepathic eel who thought it was Abraham Lincoln. Your mind games are weak sauce. Drexela snarled. Then I shall settle this by hand. The air crackled as the Empress leapt forward, all four arms spinning with energy. Her movements were impossibly fast. Her blows tore into the earth, kicking up geysers of dirt and flame. But Maria had already moved. She ducked low, slipped inside the Empress's guard, and slammed a punch directly into her abdomen, right below the armor's central node. The force of the blow sent a shockwave rippling outward, cracking the tarmac. The Empress staggered back, stunned. Maria shook out her fist. Yup, still got it. Rana, watching from behind a nearby dune, whispered, Did she just punch a demigod? Moxie replied, Yeah, and broke her own knuckles doing it. I regret nothing. Maria shouted, flexing her hand and wincing. The Empress recovered quickly. You primitive. Meat leader, Maria finished. Don't forget that part. Enraged, Drexela unleashed a telekinetic blast that lifted Maria into the air and slammed her against a boulder. Dust flew. Silence fell. Then, through the dust, came a low, annoyed voice. I swear if you crack my spine, I'm billing your empire. Maria emerged, bloodied but grinning. She wiped her mouth and walked forward again. You've got power. I'll give you that. But you've never had to fight like we do. No rules. No scripts. Just grit and whatever's lying around that explodes. The Empress raised her hand for another strike. And then the alarms went off. Sirens screamed. Warning lights flashed. Something was happening aboard the Bathari throne ship. Jules's voice crackled over the comms. General, you need to see this. The throne ship's gone dark. Something's loose in there. Maria's smile widened. Please tell me it's what I think it is. Oh yeah, Jules confirmed. It's the raccoons. All of them. Aboard the Bathari mothership, chaos reigned. The raccoons, dozens of them hypercaffeinated, genetically enhanced, and mildly radioactive, had formed an insurgency. They chewed through wiring, hijacked security bots, and activated random gravity wells. A few had donned Bathari helmets, and now strutted around issuing nonsense commands. This is the betrayal, Drexela hissed, her psychic focus faltering. We gave them shelter. You captured them, Maria corrected. You tried to dissect them. And you forgot one critical rule of Earth's wildlife. Never corner a raccoon, especially not a smart one. On the throne ship, the raccoon leader, an unusually chunky specimen named Captain Garbage, had managed to override the ship's mainframe. He now sat in the Empress's own chair, gnawing on a data crystal and purring contentedly. Bathari crew scrambled. Systems crashed. The ship began to rotate slowly in orbit, broadcasting Earth's sitcom laugh tracks in a loop. The Empress's link to her vessel snapped like a thread. Her psychic aura shrank. Her rage boiled. You verminous pests. Maria tilted her head. Talking about us or the raccoons? Drexela roared and surged forward again, but this time she was off balance. Furious. Unfocused. Maria dodged to the side, slammed her elbow into the Empress's temple, then kicked her square in the back of the knees. The towering alien collapsed. For the first time in recorded history, the Empress of Zothar was on the ground, defeated, blinking up at a human woman in scuffed combat boots and a bandaged hand. Maria crouched beside her. You wanted a clean war, she said quietly. But Earth doesn't do clean. We do scrappy. We do messy. We throw glitter in your engine room and win with duct tape and desperation. We are the raccoons of the galaxy. Drexela stared, stunned. Maria stood, then offered a hand, not in mockery, but in tired solidarity. We don't want your empire, she said. We just want to be left alone. Unless you've got Wi-Fi. Then we can talk. The Empress hesitated, then took her hand. Together, they stood as Bathari shuttles began landing around them, spilling out confused. Retreating troops, now leaderless and bewildered. The rebellion on the mothership had triggered full evacuation protocols. Moxie ran up, out of breath, holding what appeared to be a raccoon in a captain's hat. Ma'am, he gasped. Captain Garbage demands formal recognition of his new territory. Maria turned to Drexela. You heard the man. The Empress, bleeding pride and psychically drained, looked at the raccoon, then at Maria, and simply said, I yield. Jules, watching from the command center, blinked. Did she just end the war with a punch and a raccoon mutiny? Rana sipped her drink. I mean, that's Earth for you. Back on the throne ship, Captain Garbage broadcast a message to the galaxy. This vessel is under new management. The voice boomed in 20 languages, all poorly translated. We like shiny things. Stay out. The Bathari Empire, undefeated for millennia, had fallen not to superior firepower, but to a woman general with a steel jaw and zero patience, and a furry insurgency led by a trash-loving genius with opposable thumbs. Later that evening, as the sun set over the desert, Maria sat on a folding chair beside a campfire. Her team lounged nearby, bruised but grinning. Tex was roasting marshmallows over a piece of wrecked armor. Rana cleaned her sniper rifle. Moxie nursed a black eye with a bag of frozen peas. Maria gazed at the stars, took a long sip of warm beer, and muttered, Is that all they got? Behind her, the Empress, now quietly sipping tea and wrapped in a borrowed hoodie, just shook her head and smiled, unsure whether she'd made a mistake or found the only people in the galaxy crazy enough to win. The day Earth became the center of galactic politics began like any other. Maria Jackson burned her toast. Tex tried to ride a hoverbowl through a checkpoint, and someone programmed the base's coffee machine to only speak Klingon. A week had passed since the Bathari Empress surrendered, and the galaxy was still trying to process how an empire had been brought to its knees by duct tape, chaos raccoons, and a general with a caffeine addiction. Earth hadn't asked for the attention, but it got it anyway. Representatives from over a dozen alien civilizations had landed on Earth's moonbase, requesting immediate diplomatic audiences with Maria. They brought offerings, quantum technology, anti-gravity cross-ons, gravity pearls from the oceans of Karek. A few even brought apologies. One species offered to genetically erase raccoons from Earth to prevent future bio-chaos. Maria told them to keep their weird fancy eraser. She stood now at the Central Lunar Council chamber, wearing a bomber jacket with the words "Don't start none, won't be none" emblazoned on the back. Her expression was weary, but amused. I'm not interested in galactic thrones, gold crowns, or ceremonial scepters, Maria said, addressing the alien diplomats who sat in a circular array before her. I don't need you calling Earth the new capital. We just want peace, hot water on Mars, and uninterrupted access to classic rock playlists. An insectoid from the Rull hive clicked its mandibles. You possess what we lack, chaotic equilibrium. The Bathari feared you because you represent unpredictability. You win through madness. That is power. A crystalline being from the Azari collective glowed pink. We have voted unanimously to support Earth's placement as galactic peace facilitator. Your methods are unconventional, but effective. Maria frowned. You're asking us to be galactic therapists? To mediate disputes? To offer neutral arbitration? To remind civilizations not to take themselves too seriously, said a floating jellyfish diplomat, whose translator mispronounced seriously as seriously. Maria didn't correct it. Jules leaned toward her, whispering, I mean, we kind of already are. I don't want to babysit 1,000 warring alien species. We barely babysit ourselves, Maria muttered. Still, she looked around the room. Despite the pomp and strangeness, these creatures weren't bowing. They were asking. And something about that sat with her differently. Back on Earth, chaos was settling into an odd kind of calm. The Bathari throne ship, now fully under Raccoon management, had been towed into low orbit, where it hovered like a monument to absurd victory. Captain Garbage had declared it a neutral trash zone, with multilingual signage and a no laser fights after midnight rule. Diplomats from other empires had begun visiting the raccoons, offering tribute in the form of shiny objects and fruit snacks. Techs gave tours of the battlefield, rebranded as the Interstellar Heritage Park. Rana began consulting on planetary defense systems for the newly humbled alien governments. Even Moxie, who typically avoided anything that required responsibility, had started teaching demolition safety seminars to curious bug people. Maria remained the wild card. She still didn't like meetings, titles, or anything that felt like bureaucracy. But something inside her was changing. The galaxy, for better or worse, had put its weird hopes in Earth, and Earth had put its weirdest hopes in her. Later that night, she stood alone at the rim of the Grand Canyon, newly converted into the site for the first Galactic Unity Summit. Stars stretched across the sky like pinpricks in velvet. Jules joined her, carrying a metal canteen and a slightly concerned expression. You're thinking about saying yes. Maria nodded slowly. Maybe. Not for them. For us. If we're the ones who broke the cycle, maybe we're the ones who can teach them not to keep spinning it. Sounds like a lot of talking. You hate talking. I hate pointless talking, she corrected. This might not be. Jules handed her the canteen. Well, if you take the job, you're going to need more of this. She took a sip. It was tea. No sugar. Just the way she liked it. The next morning, Maria made her announcement. In a broadcast translated into over 9,000 galactic dialects, she stood in front of the Bathari throne ship, its hull now covered in raccoon murals and graffiti that read humanity. We came, we saw, we made it weird. We're not rulers, Maria said. We're not conquerors. But we are good at fixing messes. So yeah, we'll take your invitation. Earth accepts the role of mediator, advisor, and, if needed, cosmic bad cop. You want peace? You get peace. You want war? Well, she paused, adjusting her toothpick. Let's just say our raccoons are learning how to fly ships now. The feed cut with dramatic music that someone, probably Moxie, added last minute. Responses poured in. Most positive. Some terrified. The galaxy didn't know whether to cheer, panic, or install raccoon-proof doors. But not everyone was on board. Far across the stars, hidden in the ruins of an ancient station, a shadow stirred. Relgax, the disgraced Bathari commander, watched Maria's speech on a cracked screen. His armor was dented, his pride shattered, his empire fallen. But his hatred? That burned hotter than ever. She mocks our legacy, he growled. They all laugh at us. They follow her. But laughter can curdle. It can turn. I'll show them. I'll show her. Behind him, a new fleet, cloaked, silent, and growing, assembled in the dark. Back on Earth, Maria sat on a bench outside the newly opened Galactic Embassy, a dome made of salvaged alien alloys and repurposed taco truck parts. She stared up at the stars, sipping coffee from a mug that read world's okayest general. Moxie plopped down beside her. "You think you can pull it off?" "I think I don't know how not to." He glanced at her. "You change, you know." Maria smirked. "I still threaten interstellar peace talks with lawn chairs." "Yeah, but now you do it with purpose." She gave a quiet laugh. Suddenly, the alert beacon on her wrist blinked. Jules's voice crackled through. "General, we've got a problem." "What kind?" "The cloaked kind. Unmarked ships. Hundreds. Moving fast." Maria stood up. "Incoming. Could be here in 40 minutes. Faster than anything we've seen." She didn't hesitate. "Call the team. Power up Betty. Prep the raccoons." Moxie sighed, grabbing his detonator belt. So much for a quiet week. Maria looked up at the stars, one streaking brighter than the rest. A promise. A threat. She smiled, eyes burning with that old, defiant spark. "Guess I'm clocking in early." Then she walked into the light, ready to greet whatever nightmare the galaxy threw next, not with fear, but with fists, wit, and a raccoon-led army at her back.